So welcome everybody, and in today's discussion, we will talk about what are the financial requirements for US universities. If someone here, most of you here are applying for the US. If someone is applying to other countries, also I think some of you are, say UK. The requirements are slightly different, but today's discussion will be focusing on US universities. We can, because there are very few of you who are applying to UK and maybe Canada. We can take that discussion later on a one-to-one basis. But yes, if you still have any questions, feel free to ask them during the discussion. Now, in this, now while during the entire presentation, it's not a big presentation; it's a very small presentation. But if you have questions, you can directly just either turn on your microphones and ask them during the discussion, or you can put it in the chat box, whichever is convenient for you. Okay, so you can just type your questions in the chat messages, and that should, I'll then maybe read out those questions and we will discuss it in detail. Okay. So let's begin. Now, as far as US universities go, right, you will have to present them. I mean, the way it works is that first you apply for admissions, and after you are admitted, the universities will then require a certain set of financial documents, only after which they would issue you what is known as an I-20. Now, I-20 is the official document that will be required for applying for your US student visa. So without an I-20, you cannot apply for a visa. And to get an I-20, almost all universities will require some financial documents from you. Okay. Right. So in general, what universities require is that they require you to show funds of 1 year of tuition and 1 year of estimated living expenses. I mean, this is the amount of funds that you will have to show to the universities to get an I-20. Now, when you say 1 year of tuition, right, it means generally they would ask you for 2 semesters of tuition. So whatever is the tuition cost for 2 semesters of your program, the universities would ask you that. And in addition to that, every university would have what is also known, I mean, what the universities would do is they would estimate your living and other costs, like the cost of food, room and rent, uh, insurance, including other things such as sometimes they would also estimate books and other costs. So all those costs they would estimate, and that is what they would call as the total estimated living expenses. And to get your I-20, you have to show 1 year of tuition plus 1 year of living as estimated by the university. Now, generally, these estimates are slightly higher, especially the living cost. But you can't, I mean, say that I would not be using your university accommodation. I would be using shared accommodation, or I'll be staying with a family member or a friend or whatever it is. To get the I-20, you just have to show this cost. The estimated living cost is not something that you are going to pay the university. You will be paying the university only tuition, and whatever is the remaining cost, that is up to you. But the universities, as per the US government laws, they have to give an estimated tuition expenses plus the estimated living expenses, and you have to meet that expenses to get your I-20. Also, you need to show the funds only for the first year, that is only first year of tuition and first year of living cost to get the I-20. The universities will not ask you to show proof of the second year tuitions or the second year living estimate. So this is the only thing that you will have to show. Just a minute. Okay. For those who joined a little late, so what I was saying is that to get your I-20 from the university, you will need to show 1 year of tuition plus 1 year of living estimates, living in costs as estimated by the university. Only then the university would give you the I-20. Now, let's talk of what all is accepted in terms of funding. Now, when you have to show funding, it can be money in bank account, in savings account, fixed deposits are accepted. PPF in some universities they would accept it, some universities would not accept it. And then again, loan sanction letters are also accepted. There are very few universities that may not accept a loan sanction letter, but most universities would accept loan sanction letters. Okay. What is definitely not accepted is you cannot show property valuations or shares or mutual funds. Very few universities might accept shares or mutual funds, but then they would only consider, say, a 50% or 60% of the value of your shares or mutual funds. You cannot show gold or insurance policies, and most universities do not accept provident fund also. Very few universities do accept provident funds, provided you get a letter which clearly states what is the withdrawable amount of that provident fund. But generally, most universities will not accept that. Also, the letters that you get, like the bank, the letters that you get from the should be from the bank. You cannot get letters from chartered accountants or maybe some other places. If it's a saving account in a post office, you can get a letter from the post office, but many times the post office people don't. I mean, my experience has been that they don't issue any letters. So that sometimes becomes a challenge, but it's okay. I mean, if you have the funds in post office, you can still show that you can request the post office to give you a letter. In some cases, I've seen that they have issued letters. So if that is the case, that is also okay. But generally, banks and fixed deposits and all are, I mean, very easy to get letters from banks because banks have a standard format that they issue letters in, and generally a loan sanction letter is also accepted. So if you have a loan sanction, you can directly show that loan sanction letter to the university. Any questions so far? So if anybody has any questions, so you could just either just turn on your microphones and ask them right here, or you could just put it in the chat box and I'll read it out and I'll answer them. Okay. Yeah, Vikram, you have any questions?
Yeah, sir.
Vikram,
Sir, I somewhere on Google search about the Prodigy kind of thing, but I don't have any idea related to what it is. So if you give me some glimpse of this thing, that
Prodigy is nothing but a loan. Okay, Prodigy is one of the companies that issues education loans. There are various types of companies that issue education loans. So Prodigy is nothing but very simply, it's just an education loan. The only difference between Prodigy and some of the others, I mean, not just Prodigy. There is Prodigy, there is Empower, and there are a few others. But generally, these are the most popular ones in India. Is that they issue loans without any co-signer or any kind of guarantee. That is the only difference between Prodigy and the other lenders. But that's all about it. It's not exactly. So that is also basically all that would come under the category of education loans. Maybe when we discuss education loans, I'll tell you what are the types of education loans and which one would be the most suitable one for you. Okay. But as of now, you just understand Prodigy is an education loan. Okay. I think someone has, Madhurya has a question. US universities, Madhurya has a question whether colleges or universities will accept loan sanction letters only from banks or will they accept from private lenders like HDFC, Credila and all that. Generally, US universities will accept loan sanction letters from anybody. I mean, any organization, including like I was talking about Prodigy, they issue loan sanction letters and US universities would accept that. So that should not be a issue. So moving on. So like I said, what universities require to issue an I-20 is, of course, a bank letter uh, or a loan sanction letter. So idea is that, the total amount that you have to show to the university. Say, for example, you are going to a university where the tuition is, say, $30,000 for the entire year. Um, Let's assume that, and then the university estimates that $15,000 is another cost of living at that university for a year. So that would be total $45,000. Now, $45,000 is what if you have to show to the university, which would maybe approximately come to around 38, 39 lakhs or whatever. Let's say it comes to around 40 lakhs. That is the amount that you have to show to the university. And say you have 10 lakhs in your bank account. Now, again, it need not be all in a single bank account. It could be in multiple bank account, and you could have multiple sponsors. In the sense, for a student, both parents could be sponsors. You could have even your, brother, sister, grandparents, or for that matter, anybody as your sponsor. It doesn't have to be a relative only. You don't have to show any proof of relation. But generally, if you keep it restricted to 2 or 3 sponsors, that is always easy. Otherwise, you just might end up collecting 10 different documents from 10 people. Some universities restrict that you should not show more than 5 documents. It just makes their life easier. There is no such restriction as such. But some universities say that you cannot show funds in more than 5 accounts. But if that is the case, if you have more than 5 accounts, then maybe you might just want to consolidate them and show them together. But generally, universities will accept funds from multiple banks also. Like, for example, you have, say, 10 lakhs in one account, 5 lakhs in another account, and then you have a loan sanction letter of, say, 30 lakhs. So you could show all these 3 documents as your financial documents. So that is how you could do. So there is no restriction that the entire fund should be in a single account, or it should be in a single person's name, or it should all be in one source. So like all of it should be in a loan, or all of it should be in a fixed deposits or in savings account. It could be split across multiple sources and across multiple people. Okay. So, and then generally all universities would have a financial form, which is also known as an affidavit of support form or financial responsibility form. Every university has a different name for it, and you will have to download that form from the university's website. You will then have to fill it, and generally the sponsors, like whoever account you are showing funds in, apart from the student's account, will have to sign as a sponsor on that form. So, for example, if a student is showing both parents as sponsors, then both parents would have to sign as sponsors on the form. The affidavit of form basically just indicates that as parent or as a sponsor, you are willing to support the student's education because the funds are not in the student's account. It is a small declaration that the university takes from the pay or from the sponsor, whoever it is, which says that yes, as a sponsor, I'm willing to support the student's education. Um, Now, many times students, when they read affidavit or they read the word affidavit of support kind of thing, people think that you need to get a notarized affidavit from on stamp papers and all that. All that is absolutely not required. The only thing that you require is like I said, the form, university's form only has an option for for the sponsors to sign. In some cases, universities don't require, don't have a form where they have a provision for the sponsor to sign. In that case, they ask you to just write a letter. So the letter could be on a very simple, piece of paper in a Word document. You just write, print it, and sign it and send it along with your financial document. When I say send it, it has to be uploaded on the university's portal. In some cases, the university would ask you to email the document. I think let me just see if there are. So, Devarshi, your question is, if you show FDs, is it necessary that FDs must be in the name of our sponsor? So, Devarshi, I don't really understand your question, but whoever name the FD is will be your sponsor, right? Unless that FD is in your personal name. If you are showing FD, say in your father's name, then your father becomes your sponsor. If you're showing it in an uncle or auntie's name, then that person becomes your sponsor. If it's in a brother's name, then that person becomes your sponsor. Whoever fund you are showing is going to be your sponsor. So, can you clarify on that? What exactly is your question, Devarshi?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. So, like, my question was like, I have my mother who has multiple
At
FDs. And
moment, I
hello,
can't hear you very clearly.
hello,
Yeah, yeah.
hello. So my question was like, I have my mother and father both as my sponsors.
Yeah.
So FDs can be of either names, right? It can be
Yes.
on
It
mother's
can
name
be
or
on
on
either.
father's name.
Yes, yeah.
And both of them, if they both of them have multiple, then also it's fine, right? Both are the sponsors.
Yes. So it doesn't matter who. So technically, the word sponsor means whoever funds you are showing to the university becomes your sponsor. If it is your own fund, if the money is all the funds that you're showing is in your own personal account, then you are not your. I mean, you are technically not your sponsor. It's your money, so you don't need permission from anybody to use your money. But if the money is in someone else's name, I mean, anybody other than you, as an because you are an adult, anybody other than you is your sponsor. So even if it is your father's money, mother's money, or it is in anybody's name, that person is your sponsor, and they would have to sign the affidavit of support form saying that they are willing to, which basically is a declaration which will say that they are allowing you to use that money, or they are willing to give that money to you for your education. That is how it would work. Ah, okay. Um, So, Laukik has a question. Some colleges ask for funding proof in their application form, and that can be submitted later too. So, when would we provide this um, after completion of the application or after getting the admit? So, ideally, Laukik, I mean, see, in the application form, some universities have the provision of uploading your financial documents right now, but that is not required. So my recommendation is after you get an admit, only then you start sending the financial documents. There is no reason why you should be sending it in the middle of your application. I mean, if you eventually don't get an admit from that university, it's just wasted time and effort. So don't worry about it now. You can start working on the funding and the loan right now. We'll talk about that a little later. But submission of the document would happen after your admits. I mean, that is when I would suggest if you get an admit, and then again, if you decide to go to a university, even if you get an admit and you decide not to go to that university, you need not send the financial documents there. Now, on that note, there are a few universities and very few, and one of the most famous ones amongst them is San Jose State University. San Jose State University is one of the few universities that requires the financial documents even before they start reviewing your application. So if there is someone here applying to San Jose State University, then in that case, you will you will be required to provide the financial documents along with your application. I mean, their process works. They have a two-step process. The first step is you apply on the Cal State portal. Once you do that, within 7 days, the university sends you a login access to their individual portal, and there you will have to upload the financial documents. And until you upload your financial documents and the financial documents are accepted, your application will not be reviewed. So this is one of the few universities that requires the financial documents before making a decision. Most other universities don't require it at this moment. So if there is someone here applying to San Jose State, then this is something that maybe you should definitely remember. Hmm. Okay. Mm, so one question here is, what is the right time for applying for an education loan for students graduating in June 24 year and applying for the fall semester? So let me just talk about that. When is the right time? You can start applying for the education loan right now also. I'll tell you what are the options available at this moment where you can apply. But don't finalize your loan provider at this moment because that you can do maybe after you have received your admit and after all the, I mean, after you have decided which university to go to. Because there are some lenders which have loan products which are very specific to a university. Like for example, last year Bank of I think it was Bank of India came up with a loan product which was very attractive, provided you had an admit from one of the 100 universities that they thought were the best universities around the world, right? So where they didn't require any, where for that they had waived off the what do you say, the processing fee, plus they didn't require any collateral or guarantee, I mean any properties or anything as security, and their interest rate was also around 10%. So these kind of offers come up sometime in the month of April, May. Till then, you can have some loan sanctioned, but don't finalize your loan. And when I say finalizing your loan, it means don't pay a processing fee to the bank until you are very certain that okay, this is the bank I'm going to go ahead with for my education loan. So we'll talk about education loan. What are the types of education loans, and what should be your approach towards getting an education loan a little later. But any questions that you have so far? So what I'll also do is after this webinar, I will send you a document which kind of in summary explains the whole process of getting financial documents, which also would have sample letters and all those things. So I'll send it to all of you. There is also a video that I have on the financial documents requirements. So if you prefer watching the video, then do that. If you just prefer reading, some people prefer reading a PDF, you can do that. Both are almost identical. You can do both also. So I'll send you that as well. And of course, I'm trying to record this webinar. So maybe if you have anything, you can always watch it later. But any questions that you have so far for those who joined a little late, anything that you have to ask? So you can just turn on your microphones and ask, or just put it in the chat box. Yes, so Loki, coming to your answer, yes, except for San Jose and maybe a few other universities, those you may not even apply. Funding proof is not really required for getting an admission. So the process works, the application process works this way. The admission decision is made by your department. And once your admission decision is made, then your file goes to the International Students Office, who then take care of deciding on the funding requirements and issuing the I-20. So the department, say for example, if you are applying to the MS in Computer Science department, the department makes a decision. The department does not consider any of the funding requirements or whether you have funds or how will you arrange for funds is not their lookout. So they would not make a decision based on that. They would only make their decision based on your other credentials. Academic credential, test scores, SOPs, resumes, all that stuff. Then once the department decides that yes, the student has been is worthy of getting an admission, they would confirm your admission. They would send you an email, and then your file technically goes to the International Students Office. The International Students Office is the office that issues the I-20, and to issue an I-20, they would need, one is of course the admit, admit confirmation from the department where you applied to, and then they would need the financial documents. So at that moment, you send the financial documents to the International Students Office. Okay. Now, some points that you need to understand is that what happens is the I-20 amount that they show on the I-20 is generally the cost of 1 year. Now, when I say cost of 1 year, it means that it would include the cost of 2 semesters. Sometimes that could be sometimes it would be, considering 9 credits a semester, or sometimes they would consider 12 credits a semester. So sometimes the cost of tuition for 1 year on the I-20 could be for 18 credits, or it could be 24 credits. Now, what happens is when someone sees the I-20, or the most common confusion that students have is that they think that the total cost of your program is actually double that amount of the I-20. Now, in most cases, that may not be the case. So don't get confused when you see the I-20 and assume that because the I-20 amount is large, the total cost of my program is also very high. Like for some, in some cases, right? Like for example, if you look at Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, what they do is they assume that in 1 year you will complete all 3 semesters. That is, you will take courses in fall, you will take courses in spring, and then you will take courses in summer also. And they calculate 12 credits in fall, 12 credits in spring, and 12 credits in summer. And they assume that this is going to be the total cost for 1 year. Now, the actual program is also 36 credits, and you may not actually take your credits like 12, 12 plus 12 in the summer. You might do 12, 9, and maybe a little, maybe you might do a summer internship and then come back and do one more semester of 12 credits. So, don't think that, okay, the cost of my program is going to be double of that, because that is not going to be the case. Similarly, many universities, what they do is, like, for example, Arizona State University, when they do the I-20 calculation, they take the cost of 12 credits per semester. And so the I-20 actually shows the cost of 24 credits. Whereas your master's program in most cases is a 30 credit program. So if you see the I-20 amount, that might come to $51,000 or $52,000, something on that, in that range. But the actual and that includes living cost also. So it is not that the cost of your program is going to be double of that, which is going to be 100,000. So don't just directly double the cost of the I-20 and assume that this is what it's going to cost me to study at a particular university. I-20 generally does not give the actual program cost or the actual amount that you will be spending at that university. If you need to know the actual tuition, you have to go to the university's website, understand first of all how many credits is your program and what is the per tuition credit rate. And then you will have to calculate. So for example, if you take 12 credits in a semester, you might pay more money that semester. If someone takes 9 credits, they might pay a lesser amount that semester. So that is what you will have to do when you actually when you actually calculate the cost of your program. So don't just think, okay, this is the amount that is required for I-20 so I will have to pay double, because then you will not be able to make a very strong, proper decision on what is going to be the cost of that you will incur during your master's. Okay. How to calculate the estimated cost while selecting university? So when you talk about estimated cost, the tuition is not going to be an estimated cost. That is going to be an actual cost. Okay. So the tuition, whatever, it depends on your program cost. If it's a 30 credit program, you can see what is the cost per credit and multiply that by 30. Some universities also, what they do is they charge semester fees. In the sense, if you take anything above 9 credits, they will not charge you anything extra. So whether you take 9 credits, and I'm saying 9 credits because most universities require that as a full-time student, you will have to take a minimum of 9 credits in that semester. So you can't take less than that. I mean, you can't take 3 credits or 6 credits. As an international full-time student, you have to take minimum of 9 credits. Some universities like Northeastern and all, it is 8 credits, but in most cases it is 9 credits. Now, when you do the calculation for your cost, you see how much is going to be the cost of your program. Like I was saying, some universities, they have a semester cost associated, in the sense, so they calculate that if you take 9 credits or even if you take 12 credits, you will pay the same tuition. So anything above 9, you will pay the same tuition. So for example, if a program is say 36 credits and you do it in 9 credits in 4 semesters, you might end up paying more tuition. Whereas if you do it as 12 and finish it in 3 semesters, you might end up paying lesser tuition to that university. So those are also options that you will have to consider. So once you finalize the universities, you can look at the universities and decide what is the cost associated with that. Of course, if you need any help, we can take that discussion on a case-to-case basis separately. But what I'm trying to say here is that don't just try to assume that the cost of your actual program or the actual tuition and living is going to be double of the amount of the I-20. In most cases, that is not going to be the case. Also, the living estimates, as I said, is generally very high. They can go on the I-20, they can go anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 per month. That is the amount that they generally estimate. In reality, most students spend around, if it's a bigger city like say New York or then somewhere in the California side or Boston, it can go up to $1,000 to $1,200 a month. I would say 1,200 would be a good estimate for a city like New York. If it's a smaller town or maybe something like a Dallas, maybe somewhere in Arizona and all that, you might spend around $700 to $800 a month. That is your actual estimated cost that you might incur. But to show to the university, you will have to show what they have mentioned on the I-20 form. As I said, funds have to be shown only for 1 year. You don't have to show funds for the second year. I mean, subsequently, after you get your I-20, the university is not going to ask you for any funds. The only time you might have to show funds to the university again is if you are enrolling for a second master's at that same university, or in case you are changing the university, then you might have to show funds to the new university for them to issue an I-20. But if you are just continuing with your master's at the same university, you don't have to show funds again to that university. Yeah. Now, many times, like I said in the very beginning, that whether university, you are not sure whether a university accepts, say, a provident fund letter or a PPF letter. My recommendation is just send it. If they don't accept, they will tell you that we don't accept so and so document. Then you can make alternate arrangements. So whatever happens, right, even if the university does not accept your financial documents for whatever reason, it will have no effect on your admission. So don't worry too much about sending a document, or if there is some, the bank has issued a letter which is not really in the format that the university wants. My recommendation is just send it. If the university accepts, it's good. If it doesn't, they'll just tell you that we cannot accept this document. Then you can work on alternate arrangements. So don't it doesn't any, I mean, by sending a wrong document or an incorrect document, or just because the university does not accept your document, it will have no effect on your admission. So it's not that the university will cancel your admission because of this. Unless you don't send the correct documents for a very long time, it will delay your I-20, of course. But that is the only thing. And of course, if you don't get your I-20 on time, then you may not be able to apply for your visa. That is one of the drawbacks of sending documents too late. Or but say suppose in the month of April you just have to send a document and you're not sure, you just send it within 2-3 days. The university will tell you that this is not accepted. You can then make alternate arrangements. Right? So you have time till around April, May to actually work on these financial documents. So you get enough time when you apply for the fall session. Just a moment, I think. Okay, does the Prini, your question is, does the I-20 take into account any scholarship funding that you have received? So yes, Prini, the university, the I-20, while doing the cost calculations for the I-20, if you have received any scholarship from the university itself, then that will be mentioned in the I-20, and that much amount would be, subtracted from the actual amount that you will have to show. So if you have to show $45,000 and the university has given you an I-20 a scholarship for $20,000, then you just need to show the balance of $25,000 in your account. That is all you will have to show.
Thank you.
Okay, Sahil, you have a question. Do we have to keep the amount in your bank account for a certain number of months or 5-6 months? So there is no requirement as such for that. The money can be in one day, and you could just put the money today, get the letter. Say if you need 40 lakhs to be shown in the account, you put 40 lakhs today, get a letter from the bank that the balance as of today is 40 lakhs. Tomorrow, once the letter is issued, you withdraw that money. Universities don't ask for transaction statements. They just ask for a letter issued by the bank. So the money does not have to be, and the letter does not really say how much, for how many days the money was and all that. I'll show you the formats of the letters in the next screen. And I'll also be sending you a document which would have that, so you can take a look and you'll get to know. So what people do, and this is a hack that you might do as well. Say for example, you have to show 40 lakhs to the university to get your I-20, and say there is only 10 lakhs in your father's account. So you can, maybe it's in, say, State Bank of India. You go to State Bank of India, take a letter from there saying that the balance as of today is 10 lakhs. Once the bank has issued that letter, you just transfer that 10 lakhs maybe to, if your father has another account, or just transfer it to your mom's account. Get another letter from that bank saying that, say there are 10 lakhs in your mother's account. Then maybe you have one transfer that maybe to a, if your one of your parents has another bank account, say your dad has a bank account in HDFC also, transfer that to HDFC, get a letter from there. Maybe you can transfer that again money to your account, get a letter from your account. So basically that same 10 lakhs you can transfer to 4 different accounts, and maybe over a period of 10 days get 4 different letters and show that to the university. So that is also something that you can do. Students do that, and that is also absolutely okay. Universities really don't care about where the money is, how many days the money was, and all these things. For them, it is just an administrative process. They just need letters which will show that, okay, this is the minimum amount that we require, and this is the minimum amount that the university, that the student has. If the minimum amount falls short by even $1, they will say you are falling short. If the minimum amount is exactly equal to or even $1 more than what their requirement is, they will issue the I-20. You will find on the internet a lot of stuff, people saying that you need to show 1.5 times of the amount that the university requires. That is absolutely not true. You just have to show the minimum amount that they require. So if their estimated cost is $45,102, if you show $45,102, they will issue the I-20. If you show $45,101, they will not issue the I-20. It is as simple as that. Okay. So don't worry about showing 1.5 times, showing more than what is required. Showing more has no advantage, it has no disadvantage also. Some students also think that if I show a lot of funds in my account, then the university may not give scholarships. Again, this is also not true, because scholarship decisions are not based on the funds. At a master's level, you don't have what is known as need-based scholarships. Need-based scholarships are when students can apply for scholarships by saying that you don't have the financial resources to support your admission. Need-based scholarships are mostly for bachelor students, and that too for local students. International students, anyway, most universities don't give need-based scholarships for bachelors also. And for masters, there is no concept of need-based scholarships. So scholarships are based on merit, and the scholarship decisions are again made by your department and not by the overall the international students office. These documents are required by the international students office. So don't worry about showing more funds. I mean, if you have more funds in your account, I would not recommend reducing that and showing. But at the same time, if you have money that just meets the minimum requirement, you can just show that. Showing more does not help. Showing more does not harm also. I think let's move on. Any more questions on so far? Okay, so this is basically what the bank, when you get a letter from the bank, these are the main things that the bank should letter should mention. Now, I have, as I said, I'll be sending you format, but sometimes when you take that format to the bank would say, most banks would say, we have our own format, or we will not use the wordings that you have mentioned. We will give it in our own wordings. Don't argue with the bank. Just take it in any format. Just make sure that these points are mentioned in your letter. That is the name of the account holder, what is the type of account that they hold, the account number, the balance that is there in Indian rupees, what is the equivalent amount in US dollars, and a mention that there are no restrictions on the withdrawal of the funds. Now, some banks will say that we will not mention the equivalent amount in US dollars. That is also absolutely fine. Don't argue too much with the bank. If they say they don't mention, let them not mention. But if they do, it is good. Now again, these are all whims and fancies of the bank and the bank manager at that moment. There is no rule that banks cannot issue the letter, or the same bank, if you go to a different bank branch, sometimes they issue letters. Sometimes if you go to your home branch, they may not issue the letters. So there is no, again, banks don't have any policies on what should be mentioned in the letter and what should be not. It depends on the manager who is there and what they feel. So whatever the bank issues, just take it, as long as it mentions these things, and these things are very standard. I mean, whatever format they have, ideally the name of the account holder, the type of account number, and balance in Indian rupees, and the fact that there is no restriction on the withdrawal of these funds. That is, there is no existing loan on the account, or there is no lien marked on the account and all that. Those are the only things that they would mention, especially in case of fixed deposits. So these almost every bank will mention that. Some banks, as I said, will kind of tell you that we will not mention the US dollar equivalent. That is okay. Don't worry about it. So this is the kind of just a sample letter that you can take a look at. But as I said, I'll be sending you copies of these. But in case somebody has any doubt, anybody has any doubts on this? Let's move on to the next thing. I mean, it could be in this format also. As I said, it could, if you have multiple accounts with the bank, then you could get it in something, you could just put it in a table and get it. So, like I said, any format is absolutely okay, as long as the basic things are mentioned, that is the name of the customer. If you hold a joint account, you could get, it could be in multiple names also. That is also absolutely fine. And just to show you a sample of, so this is a sample where the bank for some reason refused to mention the US dollar equivalent amount in the student's account. Now, the reason why universities need that is they just need to know what is the conversion rate and what is the amount. So in that case, as I said, if the bank just refuses to mention the US dollar equivalent, then take a pen after the bank issues and just, or take a pencil and just write it on top, saying that INR so and so is equivalent to so and so US dollars at the rate of whatever is the current market rate. You can just Google out and find out and mention that. So you could do as simple as, it could be as simple as that. So you don't really have to worry about what could be done in that case. Even if you send it without writing that on top, the universities would accept, they would do that conversion themselves. But some universities would ask you to, just do the conversion for them. They will say that this should be mentioned. So it is just better to just take a pen and just write it on top. Don't have to worry too much about not that if the bank refuses to write that, mention that amount in that in your letter. So this is just as a format. I'll just share this. You can maybe, in case you need to, just do it this way. Okay, I think we will stop the presentation. And any questions? So before we talk about education loans, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Any questions that you have about this whole process on what are the financial requirements and yeah. So now the funny part is that Loki, your question is, are there any more requirements regarding funding for getting a visa? Now the funny part is that and this might come as a surprise to many, is that the US visa does not require any funds. So a lot of discussion happens around funding when it comes to US visas. But if you actually look at the US consulate's website, they clearly say that they do not need any documents for the funding part. The US visa officer is going to ask you what is your plan of paying for your education, and you have to explain your plan. You are not required to produce any documents or show any documentary evidence for that. So when the US, so now let me put it this way, that when you are going to the US for studying for your masters, or for that matter any country, you should be prepared with the funds that you need for your education. I mean, don't go with the mindset that, okay, I have funds for only one semester, and then eventually I would get a scholarship from the university, or I would get a student job, or I would get assistantships or something like that, and that is going to take care of my education. Go with the mindset that if I don't get any funding from the university, what is my plan of arranging for funds for my education? Once that part is sorted, that is what you will have to explain to the visa officer. So for visas, you can show anything. I mean, you can tell the visa officer about anything. You can tell them about that, okay, you have an education loan sanction, plus you have maybe funds that your parents are going to support, and that can be in any format. For as far as the visa officer is concerned, you can tell them that my parents' investments are in mutual funds or in stocks, or are they in post office investments. My dad has a provident fund of say 50 lakhs, out of which 30 lakhs can be easily withdrawn anytime. So that is what I'm going to use for my education. Or I'm taking an education loan of 50 lakhs, which is sanctioned, and that is where most of my funding is going to come from. So when it comes to visa, it is not the document, but it is your answers that are going to matter. And you should have a very clear explanation on where the funding for your entire education is going to come from. Again, when I say an entire education, there is no fixed amount. Like you don't have to show that, okay, my cost of education is 60 lakhs. So this is what I'm showing is where the 60 lakhs are going to come from. And then if I show that, I'll get the visa. So don't try to think from an accounting point of view, or don't try to think like an accountant, where if you show 60 lakhs, you will get the visa, and if you don't show 60 lakhs, you will not get the visa. US visas don't work that way. UK visas work that way. UK visas have a very clear cut guideline on what you need to show. Like they give a very clear estimate of 9 months of cost of education, the tuition plus 9 months of living. 9 months, they have a different cost if your university is in a London area or if it's outside the London area. And suppose that comes to say around 40,000 pounds, then you have to actually show 40,000 pounds in your account, because the UK visa is not based on an interview, and they have guidelines on what can be shown, what cannot be shown, whose account can you show, whose account you cannot show, and all that. US visas is absolutely subjective. They clearly say that the visa officer is not going to check your documents. So the visa is not going to be based on documents, but the visa officer is going to ask you what are your, first thing that they'll ask you is what are your plans and why do you want to do your master's? And then they would ask you who is going to pay for your education or how are you going to pay for your education. So you should be able to explain very clearly that where the funding is going to come from. So it is the explanation that matters. And there you can talk about any legitimate source of funds. What I would not suggest telling the visa officer at that point is about your properties, because liquidating property and getting funds takes time. But any other form of investment, be it mutual funds, be it shares, you have SIPs, insurance policies, and all that are very easily in the sense within a week's time, you can liquidate them and get it in your account. So any financial investment that you have is absolutely fine that you can tell the visa officer. Again, let me repeat, you have to tell the visa officer, you have to explain it to the visa officer, and you are not supposed to carry or show any documents. You can carry documents. I would recommend carrying documents also, but the visa officer is not going to look at them. Okay, so don't worry about the document part for the visa. The documents are required only by the university, whereas the visa officer is going to ask for an explanation on where the funding for your admissions are going to come, for your education is going to come from. Any questions so far? Okay, so now those who want to apply for education loans, right? So this is what I would, there are basically 3 kinds of organizations that issue education loans. I'm just broadly classifying them into 3. One is the traditional banks in India, like most of the public sector banks, I would say, like State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, as I said, Indian Bank of India, even I think Union Bank also has a very good education loan scheme. So these are some of the banks that have pretty good education loan scheme. But all banks in India, that is when I say banks in the sense public sector banks, they require collateral security to issue education loans of more than 7 lakhs. I think so. When I say collateral security, it means that they prefer either properties or fixed deposits that you can keep as security with the bank before they issue a loan. Now, without collateral security, most banks will not give you education loan. Now then there are NBFCs. NBFCs are like, I mean, the best ones are so far is HDFC Credila. There are, of course, IDFC Bank also has come up with some loan product. There is Avance, Incred, Oxilo, and all these companies. They issue what is known as a non-collateral loan. Non-collateral loans are loans that are issued without any collateral security. They would still need guarantors, and guarantors preferably should be parents. If parents can't be guarantors for whatever reason, then maybe you can get some, in some of them cases you can get external guarantors. I mean, it could be an uncle, but they still prefer blood relatives as guarantors. They also give you collateral loan. Now, HDFC Credila, I mean, I'm talking about is because they are one of the best companies in the NBFC segment. Right? I'm not saying that they are the best to give you education loans, but they are the best in the NBFC segment who give non-collateral loans. HDFC Credila also gives collateral loans, but if you honestly have collateral, then I would recommend going to a bank rather than going with HDFC Credila, because you could get cheaper interest rates with banks than with HDFC. But if you don't have collateral or you don't want to keep your collateral as security with for your education loan, then HDFC Credila is so far the best. There is Tata Capital, which is going to come up with a loan product sometime in the month of January or February. And they claim that they are going to be better than HDFC, but we'll see. I mean, when that comes up, I'll share those details with you and you can maybe get quotes from them also. And then there are companies like, I think someone was asking about Prodigy Finance. There is Prodigy, Empower Finance, and Leap Finance. Now, what Prodigy Finance is a company, and Empower Finance also, who give education loan without any guarantor, without any collateral security, but they do it only, and they give, but the amount that they give is in US dollars. When I say US dollars, in the sense, all the other loans, that is the banks and NBFCs that they give, are in Indian rupees, whereas the Prodigy and Empower and Leap would give you loans in US dollars. So, if, for example, the cost of your tuition is say $50,000 per year as per the I-20, then they will sanction twice the amount of the I-20 and give you $100,000. They will sanction $50,000 per year, and then they will give you that much $100,000. Sometimes they give you 90% of it, but whatever it is, they will give you that much, up to $100,000 of education loan without any guarantor and without any security. Of course, their processing fee is slightly high, and their interest rates are also high, in the sense they charge around 10 to 12% for a US dollar loan, which is considered to be a very slightly higher interest rate. Sorry. The banks in India give you a loan when you have collateral. You can get, as of today, you will get a loan of somewhere in the 10 to 10.5% range. Some banks have schemes for girl applicants, so that you might get a 0.5% discount on that. So it can go as low as 9.5% as well. NBFCs that give non-collateral loan, that is without any security, like HDFC Credila and all, would give you around 11.5% for a non-collateral loan. And sometimes, some of these companies like Oxilo and Incred and all that, they give, even if you have slightly weaker credit, a weak credit history, or some cases they do that. If the student's profile is good, but if the parents' credit history is not that strong, they do take up, but then your loan interest rates go up to 12.5 to 13%. So, as I said, the best options would be either banks or maybe an NBFC like HDFC Credila, because their rates are still competitive enough. And only if you don't are able to get a loan from HDFC Credila or the bank, then maybe you can try for maybe some companies like Oxilo or Incred or Avance, but because their rates are slightly higher. Any questions on the loan part of it?
Jay, I have one question.
Yeah.
So having good credit score, does it mean that we get little less interest rate or something like that?
In some cases, yes. See, every lender has certain parameters. Generally, with banks, it doesn't work. Banks have a very standard lending rate, and they have a minimum credit score that you should meet to get get a loan. So if your credit score is really bad or beyond their minimum requirement, they will just not give you a loan. With some of the private lenders, right? If you and your guarantors have a good credit score, then the lending rate is slightly higher, lesser. In the sense, it might be not a lot, but 0.25% lesser than the actual rate that they might otherwise offer. So they have a range that okay, if your score is this great, then maybe we can give you some discounts on the lending rate.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So Sahil, I didn't get your question. It says, does a higher interest rate lead to loan getting repaid sooner than lower interest rate bank? So Sahil, I mean, whether you take a loan from a bank or an NBFC or wherever, the lending rate does not really matter on whether the loan will get repaid sooner or faster. Every bank would have a certain amount of period within which they would calculate the term of the loan. So generally, all banks would give you, or all lenders would give you, a 2 years moratorium period, which means that for the first 2 years you are not required to make any payments to the bank or to the lender, and after 2 years your EMI starts. It is generally recommended that within the 2 years, if you can pay at least the interest part. I mean, if you have parents who are willing to pay or someone who is willing to pay the interest part, because if you do that, then during your moratorium period, the interest is calculated on a simple interest basis. But if you really don't want to make that payment and nobody wants, you can always opt for not paying anything at all during the moratorium period and start paying after you graduate or after that 2-year period starts. Now again, once the 2-year period, after the 2-year period, there's going to be a term for the loan. It could be a 7-year loan, a 15-year loan, and accordingly your EMI would be calculated on the basis of that. Most students try to finish off their loan in 2 to 3 years. I mean, if you get a job in the US, 3 years I think should be sufficient enough for you to pay off your loan. So you will not be just paying the minimum required EMI. You can do that. I mean, if you want to just stretch your loan if you have a 15-year loan and you want to use the entire 15-year term, you can do that. Just that your monthly payments would be less, but effectively you would end up paying more interest in the long run. But most students try to wrap up the loan in 3 years by making payments more than what the EMI requires. So the moment you accumulate a little amount in your bank, you can just make the payments and clear off that loan. So by going for a higher interest loan, I don't think you will end up paying the loan sooner, unless you think that is going to be a pressure on you to pay off the loan. But technically, that may not be the reason why your loan would end up paying. The more you pay to the bank, the faster you will close your loan. And no lender has a prepayment penalty. At least in the education loan segment, nobody has a prepayment penalty kind of thing. So if you decide to close your loan in 3 years, you can, or maybe 2 years, or however, whenever, you can close it. Nobody is going to charge you a penalty for paying off early. So generally, what I suggest, now again, another thing between the banks and the NBFCs is that, and especially with Credila, what I like about Credila is that you can start the process even today without an application, without even having made a single application. You can start the process and get your loan pre-approved. They don't charge you anything to pre-approve your loan. Okay. So what I generally suggest is that you can start the process with HDFC Credila. After this call, I'll also share a contact with of the HDFC Credila person. You can approach them and approach him. His name is Amit, and you can start the process. But don't finalize on HDFC Credila yet, because as I said, maybe later, once you have an admit, you can then decide which would be the best lender for you. You can maybe I can have that would be on, of course, on a one-to-one basis. I would help you with that. Whether you should approach a bank or whether you should go with Credila, or maybe, like I said, Tata Capital is coming up with a better product. I mean, that's what they claim. So whether they are willing to offer you something better, and sometimes very honestly, you can just take that offer that Credila has offered you, and then you can also bargain with someone else, some other private bank, saying that you can go to IDFC and say that, okay, I'm getting such an offer from Credila. What can you do for me? And they can sometimes would give you a offer which would be say a 0.25 or 0.5% lesser interest. So, but approaching Credila at this moment will at least you will get to know that how much loan you are eligible for, and you will have something in hand at this moment, just in case you think that getting a loan is going to be a little difficult for you. You could start the process within a week or two. They give you the over email or over SMS, and I think they have an app where you will get to know that how much has been sanctioned and what are the terms and conditions. So my recommendation is get that thing started. Then eventually what I can also suggest is that later I will also try to connect you. So we work with a company called Foreign Admits, which is basically an aggregator. So what they do is they have partnered with around 17 banks. It's more like you have the Policy Bazaar where you kind of put in your details and then you get quotes from all these other banks. It's something similar to that, but this is only for the education loan segment. So you can, I can share those details with you. You can directly go and put in, but you don't need to do that right now. If someone wants to do that, just ask me for the details. I'll try to connect you and we can work through that as well. So you can start getting quotes from other lenders also. But as I said, most of the other lenders, like especially the banks, will only entertain your loan request after you have a confirmed admit. So approaching banks like a State Bank or a Bank of Baroda at this moment might be a little too early. I mean, they will not go ahead with your loan application. So get a sanction letter from Credila, see what offer they make you, and then wait for your admits. And then after your admits, you can then start approaching other lenders at that moment. One more thing, so the reason I'm sharing this contact with you, you can directly go to Credila. Generally, if you go to an HDFC bank and tell them that you want an education loan, now HDFC bank really doesn't give the loan. Now it's one entity, but it used to be HDFC Finance, but their education loan department, Credila, is slightly different from that. It's part of the whole HDFC family now. So what they do is that they will charge you 1.25% as processing fee. We have a deal with HDFC Credila saying that if you are an Academy 1 student, they will charge you 1% processing fee, and that too they will waive off. That is including the GST. Otherwise, they charge you 1.25% plus GST generally. So my recommendation is that when I share this contact with you, you just tell this guy that your reference was my reference. His reference was basically given by me, and you are a Academy 1 student. It is just that eventually, if you decide to take the loan from Credila, you will pay a little less on the processing fee. And sometimes, always, even if you go to any lender, bargain for the interest rate. A 0.25 to 0.5% bargaining is always possible within them, and they will always quote you slightly higher, except the nationalized banks. I have never seen any scope for bargaining. Their offer is always take it or leave it kind of thing. But with the private lenders, you can always bargain. So I'll share this guy's contact after the call. After this webinar, you can over WhatsApp. So you can maybe call him tomorrow. If you are interested, just go ahead and call him. And you can then start the process within 2-3 weeks max. You can get your sanction and then just sit on that sanction. Don't do anything about it till you actually get your admits and finalize on the university. This is what I would recommend. If you decide to go ahead with HDFC at that moment, even that's also okay. It's not a bad lender, but always, if you're getting something better, why not? And I'm really optimistic about if Tata really comes up with a better product, because the other NBFCs have products, but they are not really as great as the HDFC Credila's product.
So one question, suppose we get the sanction from HDFC Credila, okay? So we can use that sanction for getting the admit, but getting the I-20, and after getting I-20, if we change it.
You can do that. So coming to that point, so when I said you get the sanction, what HDFC Credila is also they will not issue anything in they will not issue the loan sanction letter in print that you need to get your I-20. If you want the loan sanction letter, which is the proper loan sanction letter, then you will have to pay the processing fee.
Okay.
Okay. So to send it to the university, if you need that letter, then you will have to pay the processing fee.
Okay.
Okay, but even after paying the processing fee, you decide not to go ahead with them, that is absolutely fine. But then the processing fee is non-refundable.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So when you get the issue, when you want to issue the letter, I would say wait for the admit, and then you can do that. Then you can also decide which university to, which lender to approach and finalize for the loan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions so far on the documents required for the I-20 or Siddharth, I mean, can you show the loan sanction letter only to the university? I mean, you can show the loan sanction letter only to the university. I mean, I don't exactly understand when you say only to the university, who else do you want to show it to? Siddharth, are you there? I mean, you can just turn on your mic and ask your question. That will be easier. Okay, so can we show only loan sanction letter to the university? Yes, you can show only the loan sanction letter to the university. As long as it meets the university's minimum requirement, that is all that matters. So if the university's requirement is say $45,000, and if you have a loan sanction letter that says minimum that much amount, that would be sufficient. Any other questions so far? So this is just an overall discussion I thought we'll have. Everybody's individual situation and financial condition would be different. Your requirements would also be different. So just if you have anything that you need to discuss, or if your parents need to discuss, wherever parents are not attending today, just feel free to call me, and we can of course discuss it on a one-on-one basis. Anytime, just feel free to call or message, and we can have the discussion on a one-on-one basis. Okay. So I think with that we'll end this thing, today's session. Just wanted as a closing thing, I would say don't worry much about the financial requirements. It is not very stringent. You will find a lot of stuff on the internet that will really scare you about what all documents you need to show to the university, and also for your visa. Read that and ignore it. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. The financial documents required are not really a big hurdle. Even if you don't have, I mean, the only thing that you should be worried about is where do you actually get the money from? Because you can always show funds. You can maybe show it from an uncle, aunt, or wherever it is. But when it comes to paying, you can't do anything. I mean, you will actually need the money. So just plan that, okay, I have the funds. How to show it, where to show it, and all that is not a. Joshita, I think you just joined. We are ending today's session. Maybe you can watch the recording later. And as I said, there is a video that I'll also share that on this topic that I have on YouTube. You can watch that also. And I'll also share a document. It's the 2-3 pager document. You can just read that. And if you have any questions, yes, Sagar.
Jay, I just wanted to know this one thing where you told that, let's say, like, you are depositing 10 lakhs in someone's account, like, in my parents' account.
Yeah.
And then, like, you move that funds from one account to another account.
Right.
So for that part, like, do we, like, need to, like, give it, like, a week break, or like, or we can just do it like let's say on 23rd, I'm depositing the amount, I get the loan, I get the letter, bank solvency certificate, and then the next day I transfer that amount to the another bank.
You can do
So-
that in the very next day, right? See, the bank will, unless your bank has an issue with that, problem with that. But generally, the bank should not. It is your money. You can deposit and withdraw it anytime.
Okay.
Right. And see, suppose today, say tomorrow you have 10 lakhs in your account, right? Tomorrow is the 27th. So 27th, you go to the bank, you withdraw the money. Not withdraw the money, sorry, get a letter issued. Maybe tomorrow afternoon, the bank issues you a letter. Tomorrow, the moment the letter is issued, tomorrow evening, you can transfer that to another account, right? Then you go to the next bank, you will tell them, I want a balance certificate, because you are going to request them for a balance certificate. The balance certificate, what the bank will do, they will check the balance in the account as of today. And that is what they will write and give. So 28th, another bank will give you a letter saying that the balance in your account is so and so.
Okay.
That same evening, you withdraw that money. It's absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, by then, I'll share, as I said, I'll share the other documents and the videos and the Credila contact, and then we can start the loan process also.